Welcome to Steps Forward with Ricky, a weekly walking podcast designed to help you take steps forward in your life and your day. Hello and happy Monday. Monday morning, maybe it's afternoon or evening for you. Honestly, maybe it's Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day you're listening to this. Make sure that you're walking as you're listening. That is the whole idea behind this podcast, is that I want you to take walking breaks and move your body, put one foot in front of the other. So if you're sitting on your couch right now or laying in your bed or just in your car listening to this, I appreciate that, but would rather you be walking. So that's number one. Number two is that I'm really excited to be here. I love podcasting, and I didn't know that I would love it so much. Like the second I walk into the studio, I just feel free, open, like excited. I don't know. It's just really great. And it's a really good reminder that when you have an idea that feels aligned, even if you've never done it before or you're scared or you might suck at it first and you feel like, all right, I'm going to be a beginner and I have so much to learn. These ideas don't just come to us randomly. They come to us for a reason. And I'm starting to figure out the reason. You know, obviously I love to talk. Clearly, I literally could talk to a wall. I feel like I'm talking to a wall because there's no one in front of me, but I'm really talking to you. But yeah, I love to talk. I love to story tell. I love to invite you into my life. I love to share advice. But I think it's bigger than that. I haven't figured it out yet. And it's just a good reminder for me and for you that it's okay if you don't have every single answer when you start something. And it's okay if you don't know where it's 100% going, or if you're not a professional, if you don't have all the credibility, like don't not do it because of that. Because you might figure out different answers as you navigate through your new idea or your new adventure. And it could take you so many different places. So that's not the topic today, but I just really wanted to throw that in. Make sure you're walking and make sure you chase after your ideas, because you never know where they'll go. Anyways, let's get back to what the episode is actually about. Today, I'm going to talk to you about stories. The stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell other people, and the stories that ultimately shape our life. And I'm going to tell you a story, and it's a personal story. Obviously, everything I tell you is personal, but it's also a story about what it really is like to cling on to stories and to hold tight to them when we feel like ours isn't working for us or we want to change our story. So I'm going to tell you a story, and then I'm going to tell you the lessons that I've learned and things that you can take with you to navigate through your stories or create a new story. So it was 2017. I met a guy. I was living in Colorado at the time. Me and my dog, Logan, my 100-pound rescue dog, he was 9 years old at the time. Yeah, he was 9 years old. No, he was 9 years old when I got him. He was 12 years old currently during this time. And I really loved Colorado, but I felt like something was like missing. And it wasn't anything to do with Denver or anything like that. It was like more of an internal feeling, right? Because obviously it always is. And I went home for a wedding on February 4th, 2017, my cousin's wedding. And I met this boy. He happened to have been in the wedding, and he was really, really cute. He had like long hair, and I just was totally attracted to him. And we started talking. And before I even knew it, I learned very quickly that his mom and my mom were college roommates. So if you're new here, my mom died when I was 13, and that, you should probably just go to like episode 1, episode 2, get a little recap of that. But I'm going to talk about that more later on in other episodes. But she died when I was 13, and I feel like my life has been a combination of like signs from her. And I like to believe that she's always around me, because the people that we lose, they might be gone, but they still live within us or around us. And I had always really lived my life with this like idea that like she's right there, or I can like feel her. She's giving me these signs. And that's just kind of who I am as a person. Maybe you can relate to that. So I was feeling, kind of empty or searching for something. I met this guy, right? This cute guy. I met him in Michigan, where I'm from. And he was at my cousin's wedding. And then boom, he's like, yeah, did you know our moms were college roommates? And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I'm in love. Like, say no more. You're cute. You're great. You live in Michigan. You're at my cousin's wedding, and our moms are college roommates. Like, I'm in. sold, right? Because there goes the story. And when you look for a connection or a piece of the puzzle to like put together, you can find it. So I go back to Denver and he's in Michigan, and we had this like long distance love affair from like February, March, April, May. And I'm like super like, I'm into this. This is great. Like my mom sent him like, this is it. Right. And I really did take it as a sign. And so I impulsively moved back to Michigan. Do a lot of things impulsively. Maybe you do a lot of things impulsively too. And it was May. Yeah, May. Met him in February. And May, I dragged my big dog Logie with me and we trekked back to Michigan. We really honestly just drove. And that was it. Denver was done. I was out. I met someone, my mom sent him, and that was that. And then it just took a turn. You know, we started dating and I was living at home with Logie and I was living with my parents because I moved back in with them because the idea was that I was going to move in with him eventually. And we were in love, and, you know, when you're in love, you see red flags and you just turn the other way, right? And so I had a story. I believed in this story, this fairy tale, this story. And nobody was going to take this story away from me. I don't know if that's something that you can relate to, maybe something in your life where you're just like, yeah, I clung to that story or I clung to that belief and I wanted to believe that it was bigger than it was because whatever it was making me feel better and that like everything was happening for a reason. So we decided that we were going to move in together after like a couple months. So it was like May, June, July. So like by like August, we were like, all right, let's get a place together. Meanwhile, those 5 months, May, June, July, August, they were good. Like we were in love and he is so wonderful. But there were a lot of things that I just felt very anxious about. Just not even like to do with him, just my dog was really stressed, you know, from all the change. I didn't have a place to live. I was 27 years old, like living with my parents. I didn't have that like freedom that I had in Colorado that I loved and I missed so much. And so these were like the facts of the story. And things with him and I were good, but he was regimented and structured and I was very much the opposite. And so there was some push and pull there. So like, let's take a step back for a second. We have like the story of like, left Colorado, fell in love, mom's college roommate, like love my dog, we're in. And then we have like the facts of the story, like anxious, my dog is anxious. I feel kind of like trapped. Him and I are having a few issues. Okay. So if you like pause for a second, you like think about your life and you like think about the things in your life, there's like the story and then there's the actual facts of the story, right? And this is where it gets complicated because you want to believe the story, not the facts. Fuck the facts. But like the truth is the truth doesn't lie. We lie to ourselves. And this is sort of what happened. We moved in together to this apartment that I did not want to live in. Like I was so sad about it. It was everything that I didn't want, but I was in, and I had to make sure the story panned out how I wanted it to pan out. We moved in together. Wait for this. The day we move in together, my dog dies. I know. It's so weird. I took him out to go to the bathroom and he was already so anxious. I took him out to go to the bathroom and he fell. He was in the, I don't know if you ever heard this expression, like when dogs are ready to go, they go into the woods. They like go into the trees. They like separate themselves from their owner so that the owner doesn't have to see that like they're ready. And he literally walked into the woods and he fell. My dog was 12 years old at the time. He was 100 pounds. He was a mutt and just the grumpiest old man, but really honestly the love of my life. And he fell and I was like, Logie, like, come on. And he didn't get up. So I had to pick him up, take him in, and I took him to the doctor right away, the vet right away. And you know, and my gut feeling was like, this is it, because he had really bad legs and he was 12 years old and I would never in my life like put my dog through surgery. And they said like he pulled his ACL and I was like, okay, like what are the options? They're like, well, he's never gonna be able to walk in. I was like, okay, so it seems like the only option is to let him go. And they're like, you have to let him go and you have to do it today because he's in pain. So my dog dies. And in my head, it was another sign that like Logan saw that I had found somebody and I was good. I was good to go and like he could leave now. Because that was kind of the type of like relationship that we had, was like, I'm here for you, you're here for me until we both are good. So I took that as another sign. And shit just got worse. Like that wasn't a sign for like, you're great. That was like a sign for that chapter in my life was over. And it had nothing to do with what was coming up now. And things got really bad. And it's not about the person that I was with or about me. It's just like sometimes things just get really bad between two people and it's not their fault. It's not your fault. And that's just what happens. And things were getting really bad. But I was so attached to the story that like, this was it. This was my fairy tale. Because if you think about things in your life right now, like how many things have you given up or decisions that you've made or things that you believe and you really do believe them and you want them to be true, but you stay in something so long, maybe a job or a relationship, whatever it is that you're doing because of the story. And the funny thing about stories is that we can create new ones. But so often our old stories just keep us there. And we give them so much power. And I remember thinking like, no, this is, my mom sent him. Like, this is it. I gave up Colorado. My dog died. Like, everything in my life that I had known that kept me safe was gone. And so I really believed that he was here and he was here for a reason. But here's the other thing. It's not that they're not here for a reason or that your story isn't true. It's just about perspective. So I looked at it like this was all like a good thing. Like my dog died because like it was about him. Like he knew that I was ready for a relationship. You know, I met this person because I was ready to leave Colorado and my mom was his mom's college roommate. So she must have sent him. But those were just the stories that I was telling myself. I could have looked at that 100% differently. I could have looked at that like this was happening to get me back to Michigan. And that was the only way I was going to get back to Michigan was if I met somebody who could take me back to Michigan. And my mom had to have such a strong connection to it to get me back there. I could have looked at it like my dog died because I was ready to move forward. Because having a dog is freaking hard. And I loved him so much, but I was ready to move forward. But I didn't look at it like that because I wanted to believe it was going to work out. Long story short, we ended up breaking up. I broke up with him and it was really horrible. It really was. It was really awful. And I felt like it was like all for nothing. And I remember like sitting in my room and on the living room of my new apartment and being like, are you fucking kidding? And then I was like, I can change the story. And that was the first time, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, where I was like, oh my God, it's just a fucking story. I can write a new story. I can get up again and I could look at this from a whole different view. That this was all happening for me, but maybe differently than I had panned it out or planned it out originally. So after we broke up, I went through a lot of different things and I started writing news stories for myself. And I didn't look at it like this failure that my mom didn't send him. Like she 100% did, just for different reasons that I didn't or couldn't see originally. And as I grew through that relationship and it ended, and as I grew stronger as a person, I started to realize, oh, okay, this was why this happened, or this was why this happened. And if you think about the things in your life too, the stories that you've assigned or the beliefs that you've assigned to certain situations, if you like take a step back for a second and you're like, oh, I know that I thought this was for that, but maybe it's really for this. Or maybe if I leave, that's where and what happens next in the story. Or maybe if I take an opportunity that I'm scared of, that's the next part of the story. Like we can change the stories that we write. We can edit them. Nothing is permanent. You know, whatever story you tell yourself to stay in that relationship or to stay at the job or to not work out or to hold on to something because it makes you feel good. If you can do that, then can't you change it? Like literally, can't you just write a new one? So what, like the mantra that I had adapted. If you're actually physically watching this, like sometimes I look at my facial expressions when this is videoing and I'm like, I kind of look like a psycho. Okay. Anyways, but the whole thing is that like, I really do believe that we can edit our stories and we can write new chapters. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but there was like this mantra that I like picked up, and it was, life is happening for you, not to you. So when I started to believe that, I changed the story. I was like, oh, that happened because of this, because of this, because of that, because of this. And it made me feel better. And so think about your life and the stories that you tell yourself. Could be the good stories, the shitty stories. And can you edit them? Like, can you literally be like, you know what? That's not working for me. Another chapter. Or you know what? Let's edit this a little bit because this story isn't really serving me or keeping me or pushing me forward. And I don't know, I wanted to share that story because I really believed that was like my mom's gift. But it was. It still was. It was just a different gift. I had to find another meaning in it. You have to find, if what you originally thought you were going to get out of it doesn't come from it, you got to find a different one. It's perspective. It's mindset. If you think the job was sent to you for a reason and then you don't get the job, write a different fucking story for it. Hey, you didn't get the job because there's another one coming. You didn't marry that person because it's not the right person. You can still, it's like, you can have like different stories at once. Like what the story originally started off of does not have to be how it ends. So it's perspective and it's a mindset. So the next time you're in your head and you're like, I know this is happening for a reason. Like it 100% is everything happening for you, but your reason can change. That's what I'm trying to get at. Is that all the reasons things are happening, that can change and that can evolve and that can grow as you evolve, as you grow. So don't be so attached to your stories. Be more interested in the lesson that the story or the experience or the event is offering you. Because if you look at it like this is just a lesson, then you're not so attached and you're not like, ooh, I have to stay in this. Because you're like, oh, yeah, you know what? This is a story and this is happening, but I know that it's also a lesson. So maybe it's just what I'm gathering from this is just a lesson. And if you can look things like that, it's a lot easier. And you don't stay in things too long. You don't attach yourself to things. You don't look at things so permanent. So yeah, that's really fucking important because you don't want to attach yourself to things. Because if you attach yourself to things, you can't see other things. And stories are always changing. People change their life all the time. How do you think they do that? They change their stories or the stories that they tell themselves. So be aware of the stories that you create in your head. They are gifts from people that are not with you. They are always speaking to you and sending you signs. But it's whatever you want it to be, right? So if something doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, change your perspective, change the story, change the chapter, because you can. And honestly, you should. So just a reminder, and it's hard when the story doesn't pan out how you wanted it to, but it's happening for you 100%. So you better take the lesson and put your big girl or big boy pants on and write a new chapter. I hope you had a great walk. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy it, reach out on social media, share it, tag me. Like, let's do this. We're only at the beginning stages of all this, and it's definitely a journey for me. So I'm excited to be on it with you, and I appreciate all the love and support, and I hope you had a really, really good walk. Go drink water, and thanks for hanging. I'll see you next Monday.